we made a big mistake when building our first rabbit hutch that led to the death of an entire litter. And so here is what happened. As you might remember, if you've seen the video of our rabbit hutch walkthrough, what we did was we picked a site in our backyard and we dug down 3 feet, put on mesh wire, filled it back with dirt, and put the rabbit hutch basically on top of it, because we want to raise our rabbits in a colony and we want them to be able to burrow, to build tunnels, and to live in an environment that's as close as possible to the natural environment, right? And so that's what we did. And we did not take one thing into account that was very stupid, and that is what would happen if it rains a lot and if our backyard floods and, the groundwater comes up and floods the tunnels. And unfortunately, a while ago, that's exactly what happened. It rained for days and days. And one day, we go in and we've noticed that all of the adults were always on top. They didn't go down to the tunnels, which is unusual because, they very often spend time underground. And so we would walk in and I peeked into one of the tunnels and I see water. I'm like, holy moly. And we suspected at that point that there was already a litter down there. And that was heartbreaking because we figured, well, the litter drowned, must have, because if we don't see them out here, they must be dead. And actually it turned out that almost the entire litter died. There were 2 little ones that somehow survived, that came up close enough, I guess, to the surface, and they must have been maybe 2 weeks old tops, maybe a little younger. And so we were super happy about those 2, even though in the next couple of days or within a week or so, one of them actually died and only one survived. And we named her Judy. And that was, then the favorite, of course, because it was the lone survivor. And so we figured, well, we got to do something about this. We cannot move the whole hutch, unfortunately. We got to do something. So what we did is we dug a trench around the entire hutch and put in one of those drainage pipes and backfill it with gravel and put some dirt on top so you don't see it, hoping that whenever it would rain, the rain would accumulate, would get into the pipes, and then be hopefully transported off down the, we're not really on a hill, but we're like on a slight decline, and so the water would just gravity feed down away from the tunnels. And so the next time it rained, it seemed to be working until it rained a lot again for a couple of days, and it's been, here in Georgia at least, it's been a super wet winter, maybe because of El Nino, and it rained and rained and rained, and we were back to having flooded tunnels. And we again thought, oh boy, if there was a litter down there, the litter is probably dead again. And we got super upset and frustrated and, tried to figure out what we can do. Well, then we decided, well, the only thing we can do is really to bring up, their whole tunnel system above ground and to add dirt to the hutch so that all of their tunnels would be above ground, and to prevent them from digging down further where, there could be water if it rains too much. So we embarked on the journey of moving, I don't know how much dirt. We have a 12 by 8, I think, rabbit hutch. So even a foot deep is quite a bit of dirt, as you can imagine. You can't use machinery, you have to hand shovel it. And so what we did, we started on one corner, we removed all of the dirt, trying to see if there are anything in the tunnels maybe that we could, rescue. And so that's why we dug down first, instead of just putting mesh wire and then, or filling up the tunnels, because there might be, little ones in there. And so we carefully dug one half up, moved all the dirt to one side, made sure all the tunnels were empty. Once we figured out they were, we put the dirt back to make it level with the ground, and we started adding mesh wire on ground level. So that's as deep as our rabbits could then dig, right? And then once we had the mesh on ground level, we filled in extra dirt. So we got, 6 cubic yard or whatever of dirt, and we started filling it in, hauling it in from the front of the house. We have the dirt pile and fill it in. And we were approximately halfway into doing that when I saw like a little tunnel very close to the surface, so not very deep. And I was starting to dig, and I'm like, no, you know what? I'm going to use my hands and, just remove the dirt just to be sure, even though at this point we suspected there was nothing down there. And I'm like, well, maybe they're pregnant right now and there is nothing, down there. And as I do that, I see something moving, and lo and behold, we found a nest of 5 little ones. They must have again been maybe 2 weeks old or so, still tiny. And fortunately, Mom built a tunnel that was so shallow just for the nest, so the remainder of the tunnels were pretty deep, and it was wet down there. But this tunnel was so shallow that the water couldn't reach up there, and we found and rescued the little ones. So we took them all. Actually, we didn't take them. We just avoided that area because it was shallow enough and didn't do anything with it. But we kept digging around then. And then the second thing we did is, and we noticed there was one white bunny in that litter. And so that gave us the clue that it was from our new mom, from the new doe that we just introduced, because she is white, in white New Zealand. And so we figured, okay, she was pregnant, she already, delivered, and that's her litter. And then we looked at mom and we weighed her and the other mom, and she weighed 11.5 pounds. I'm like, and we could feel, she was pregnant at the time. So I'm like, okay, so one litter we found. The second litter doesn't exist yet because, it's still in her belly. So it's safe to, backfill out the rest and finish the rest of the rabbit hutch. So we did that. We filled it up, I guess 2 feet or so above the surface. And we made a big mound in one corner so they could really dig in there. And we finished all of that up. And now the entire hutch is safe from flooding, because they can only dig down to ground level, not any deeper, and we don't have above ground flooding, fortunately, and I hope we never will. I mean, maybe time will, prove us wrong, but until we have never had that. And so we feel relatively confident that whenever, the next strong rain comes, heavy rains come, that the tunnels will be safe because they're above ground, and the rabbits seem to love it. They've already built like a whole condominium into that mound in the corner. They dug some additional tunnels. The babies seem to be doing fine. As of this recording, the second mom still pregnant, so still with 11.5 pounds. So we can't wait to see where she's going to deliver, if it's going to be in that mound or maybe in a separate tunnel. But that was really one thing that, I encourage you, if you build a rabbit hutch and if you want to allow your rabbits to burrow, to dig tunnels, do it above ground unless you're absolutely certain that the place where you built does not flood, even if you dig down for, a couple of feet. And with that experience, we also took the lone survivor of the first flood, Charlie. Turned out to be a buck, even though we named her Judy in the beginning. We built a second rabbit hutch, and then I'm going to show you that in a second video. So check that out. It's going to be linked down below to see what we did from the get-go to build above ground. With that, we're going to wrap up this video. I hope you learned something and you're not going to repeat the same mistake that we did. It's frustrating. It's painful to see when rabbits or animals die that are under your care because you made a mistake. So we'll try to not do that again. I hope you won't do that either. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and I hope we'll see you in the next one.